All right, welcome back to another episode of the USL show. It feels like it's been about a month since last week for some reason. I don't know why this time has been going by so slowly, but it is great to be back. Let me tell you, it has been a wild and wacky week in USL soccer. We thought that New Orleans coming to the USL was going to be the big news. Wait until you hear about Kyler the Sub Tate hitting your feed last night as the only sub, the official 12th man of the Colorado Switchbacks. Oh, and don't forget about the USLW League final that's going to be happening this Sunday after a really exciting week that was the W League. Oh, and League Two brackets are out now, which is basically March Madness. This is about to be a crazy like week and month of footy, and I could not be more excited. But the only thing I'm more excited about than that is to see my two beautiful co-hosts with me. Guys, doing all right. Ryan, what's going on, man?
Doing okay. It seems like every single day here we have some variation of rain here in this typical North Carolina weather, and it's just made for very interesting weather here.
Don't doubt that. Alan, how are you?
Good. Just got back from some union business up in Burlingame, San Francisco area. I got back in Sunday just in time to watch San Diego versus the 12 men Colorado Springs on Monday.
Man, what a match that was. I mean, for what it was relatively competitive. I mean, for what it was, there's a lot of conversation. We'll get into that in a minute. I just wanted to share. If you considered if it was on your bucket list to get stung on the back of the head by a wasp, don't. It's not worth it. That happened to me like 3 hours ago, and I hated it. So just take it off the bucket list. Just act like I was never a part of it. So just go ahead and take that one off. It scared me more than anything. Like it hurt, but it just kind of scared me because all I did was open the door, and then suddenly I felt like I've just got like shot with something, stabbed in the back of the head, which was freaks you out a little bit, I suppose. But I mean, there was some big news that happened last week, and that was after Santa Barbara decided to come out of nowhere, come out of left field, and come out with the only female crest ever.
Uh,
I mean, talk about immediately putting your foot in the mouth, huh? It was impressive. It was impressive. But like day or two later, we get New Orleans, the one that we were all expecting, even though one Knox did a brilliant troll job. What's some thoughts on New Orleans, y'all?
That wherever Alan travels to, he can birth a USL club in any vacation destination.
yeah, so if your city is looking to get a USL club, you can just pay me to send you to your city, and not very much longer, Warren will show up and launch a new franchise yet again. I think he's trying to make, was it 3?
This is his third, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, who else better to call on than a guy who's launched 2 pretty successful USL clubs, or at least the launches were pretty successful. So you're getting a guy who knows what he's doing and is going to be well loved by the community.
I mean, this is already a team that's going out for the community. I mean, they are the first club to join our USL show Discord, so #ad. But also, that's wild. I checked my phone, or I checked the computer today, and I was like, oh, USL NOLA has joined the channel, and I'm like, why would they do that? Thanks, guys.
It helps with having just more teams in that just kind of part of the country for USO. And New Orleans is a major market that has certainly been without a professional level football club there for a while. But you already have at least ready-made opponents within Houston, within Birmingham, within Memphis, just up the Mississippi River, St. Louis a bit further up. So it's a really just great area to place a team.
No doubt. On top of that, we go on over, and on Sunday, I do believe it was Sunday, we got our W League matchups where Aurora kind of squeaks by McLean and gets a 1-0 win, a really tense 1-0 win at that. And Tormenta goes on and continues their tormenting of Greenville and beats Greenville Liberty 4-1, which we didn't even talk about Greenville Triumph blowing a 4-0 lead and a 5-4 lead. That happened. And then the ladies down in Tormenta W League team just decided to just continue the pain up in the upstate.
Yeah, we almost got the W League final I would have liked. Truth or consequences? That would actually be a pretty easy trip because that's where my uncle lives, ironically enough. But yeah, we almost got the Greenville Aurora matchup of the two gorgeous crests, but you can't go wrong with that bird either with Tormenta.
And a sold-out final ahead, too.
Within like 24 hours. That's what is it? 6,400 people that fit into that arena. I'm guessing they're going to create some more room. If I was a betting man, would be getting close to 6,500 or more. That's incredible. That's more than several championship teams have done this year. On top of that, I mean, Vermont Green would decide to go full Mingo with Turbo getting his first start and actually playing really, really well and having tons of fans there. We're seeing a lot of growth coming out of these clubs right now, and it's a really fun stories to follow along, especially if you decide to go into those League 2 and W League storylines. They're incredible.
Trying to find the graphic now to at least confirm like where those teams fell compared to USL Championship and League One teams. It was from Mike Pendleton, of course. I'm trying to,
As always.
Like Minnesota Aurora for this week's match was like above the likes of San Antonio, Memphis, Oakland Roots. Vermont Green, you would place them above Charleston, Fuego, and Loudoun as well.
That's real deal, man. That is real deal. And then the gift that keeps on giving, that is the USL. Yesterday, Kyler the Sub Tate comes out and announces himself to the world. And there's a conversation I want to have with this, but Alan, you were in attendance to witness the birth of a legend. Do you feel blessed? I
did. When he took his practice kit off, I was like, he's coming in, he's coming in, he's coming in. And the press box was like, what are you talking? What, like, it's like, this is his first minutes. He's been on the bench and he's finally getting a chance to play. You could tell that I also made the joke that there were some Colorado Springs players, like 4 or 5 of them lined up on the sideline when they were going to do that sub. And I think I was like, were they all like pitching in, like, me? Can it be me? Can it be me? Can it be me? But yeah, it was weird. Like when they passed out the rosters, like the rest of the roster had X marks. So I thought, well, maybe they're bringing some academy kids. They didn't have it all filled out by the time they needed to submit it or something. But it was literally just like X's below them. I'm like, and then we started counting players during warm up. We're like, nope, there are 12 people.
So that's something I want to talk about actually immediately is this academy conversation. And unless something has been hidden through the website, through searching, switchbacks to whatever, their squad was filled out of mostly Rapids 2 players that got kind of loaned over. Which everything says switchbacks do not have an academy, or at least not one that produces people who can play. Maybe they might have like a U9 academy that's not listed somewhere, but they don't have a true academy. Just that in of itself seems like it's a bit of a problem to me. But for you guys, as we're adding in more teams, we're looking to expand more and more. We are officially into Soccer Wars 3.0 or 4.0 or 17.0, wherever we are at this point. Should it be a requirement by the USL from League One up to have academies, or just championship, or neither?
I mean, I think we've seen across U.S. soccer, they've been incredibly lax with how teams have wanted to run their academy systems. I mean, even for a while when USL clubs were getting MLS2 sides joining the league, there used to be a requirement that every MLS side had to either partner with someone or had to have an MLS2 team in the league unless they didn't feel like it, even though it was technically a rule. And then you're starting to see more teams take a more focus on a kind of youth academy approach. But I think especially at this level, you still, well, being that kind of main team of your market, there shouldn't be any excuse not to at least want to invest within your local community to try and form some type of academy or at least some type of B team that you can play within League Two or even just within local leagues.
Yeah, you can also look at some like partnership ideas as well. I know San Diego's Loyal Select Academy is basically like a part-time academy where they basically pull like the top echelon of a lot of the established youth clubs in San Diego and give some of those players an opportunity to train with a professional team. So even if there isn't a want to develop an academy, like why not tap into things that are already in existence and give some of those players even a part-time experience, and some of those guys have played and or made the 18 roster for Loyal when they needed some extra bodies in kind of a similar situation to what Colorado's going through. Not always to the biggest success because they are academy kids that are developing, but I think there are creative ways to invest in development of soccer without having to start your own academy to get it off the ground. And I'm hoping this is a little bit of a wake-up call for USO clubs to, if not invest in your own academy, figure out some way to solidify a pipeline to their first team club.
So I like the way that Birmingham has done theirs. We're officially in the A League now, but we've had an official academy for I think 2-3 years now. And we've had an affiliation with local clubs. This year, we've officially solidified an affiliation with the Birmingham United Soccer Academy, BUSA for short, which also houses a women's team. So I don't know what that means, but they were included in the announcement. But there's a BUSA team, so they have the basically U5 all the way up. And then they also have the Legion Academy on top of that. So it's basically a 2-tiered academy system where they have kids that can play under, maybe get a Legion D because they have a D league, the development league. So they can have Legion on the side of their shirts. It's really cool. They get to wear the crest a little bit. And as they get older and older, maybe they can work their way into the proper academy. And then they can work their way into the professional team. And we've signed several professional contracts out of our academy, and it's as simple as we're going to affiliate, we're going to drop some money into your leagues, and your teams can wear our crest. It's fun. Kids feel like professionals for a little bit. We'll send our players out like once every 2 weeks. They can work with, I don't know, you can work with Coach Caldwell with the switchbacks. He can teach you how to goalkeeper, or you can work with Coach Aji Berry for like once a month. And after that, it's like kids get hooked on that. That's stuff that they will remember forever. And at the very least, you create soccer fans for life, which is what we're doing here, right? I mean, academy doesn't just get you players for situations where all you have is a 12th man. It also builds community, right?
I mean, overall, I think not only does it need to have, like, for these teams to have an academy to basically be a second-tier league in the United States and to only show up with 12 players just almost screams unprofessional for what this league is trying to do. I get there's been some shorthanded situations with COVID and other things this year, and Colorado Springs hasn't done themselves any favors with the second time this month. They've had a Friday, Monday scheduling quirk. They've played 7 games. They're going to play 7 games in the month of July, but like it screams that it was not like there was no preparation. There was just no professionalism behind showing up with 12 players, just kind of like the same amount of like preparation behind showing up for like rec league soccer. It's like, oh, we don't have enough. I mean, they had 2 red cards in that last game. Imagine if there was an injury to it and they couldn't like physically fill out the roster. At some point, they could have gotten down to playing with 7 or 8 players. And then by then it's no longer seems fair, fun, or just professional.
I mean, they could have forfeited the match, received the same result of a 3-0 loss, and saved themselves the embarrassment, saved the league the embarrassment. Like, so I somehow trying to show up and compete with only 12 men is more embarrassing to the league than just saying we can't fill out even a 13 or a 14 or a 15. This is better for all parties here. We're sorry. Because stuff happens. It does happen. I mean, they went out there with what they had, what they were able to sign. And honestly, a little bit of it too. I know there was a lot of backlash. I feel like a lot of this came from their preemptive post of saying, hey, Switchbacks fans, we're sorry. This is about to be rough. And then everybody was just waiting, basically refreshing. All the people in USL world were just refreshing, waiting to see what they come out with, expecting to see a bunch of players who are U15 or something like that. And somehow coming out with 12 players is worse than any of us could have imagined that they were going to come out with.
I'm shocked there's not like rules or like a sanction on you have to have a minimum number of players on a bench to compete in a game. This wouldn't, I would say this wouldn't fly at MLS. It wouldn't fly at any league within Europe. And just overall, you're looking at this as a team who's second in the Western Conference right now, is one of the better sides of the league. I mean, when we were talking preseason, as this is a team who could potentially be playing for USL Cup, and this is how they display one of their games against another side who is very close to them for winning the Western Conference, or at least towards the top of the table for it with San Diego. It doesn't seem as just well prepared.
Yeah, that comment about the goalkeeper getting hurt, I was like, he already had a yellow at halftime, and I was like waiting for him to come out and make a poor tackle or a bad play and get a yellow card, and then they would have had to have subbed someone. It would have been 8 guys in the outfield and someone backup keeping.
Tyler Tate for goalkeeper.
Maybe he was out there early training with them.
Look, I do want to get, because we do need to move on, because there was some big news possibly coming out of El Paso today. But that the collision on Vassell, watching the replay, it looked to me that the center back pushed him into the keeper. The keeper really didn't have an option to get out of the way. Vassell didn't have a chance to get out of the way. Alan, as someone who was there in person and maybe has a little bit of skin in the game, what did you think about that?
I had to watch it back because that was a tough one to see from my vantage point. But there was a replay kind of from one of the field level cameras that shows pretty much that the defender, I don't remember, Wheeler, I think it was Wheeler, was kind of running Vassell to his left and kind of steering him that way. And so, like, as a offensive player, like, you don't really have anywhere to go, and so that's your pathway. And then the keeper comes out and plays the ball and gets the guy. I would have had a hard time calling a foul on either player. I think it's just 2 players going for a 50-50. In fact, I don't even think Kyle Vassell was even trying to play the ball. He was like kind of ducking down. That's what ends up injuring his shoulder. Where he comes out later in the match. After the match, they said that's kind of when it happened on that goal. And then, Toomey throwing it back in there. was the smart play. But I mean, I can understand why Colorado might be upset. I think at that point they were already pretty frustrated, and can understand, why their emotions were running high. But I think, the goalie's outside the 18-yard box. It's a 50-50 play. Kyle Vassell's almost kind of giving up on it, and then the goalkeeper runs through him. I kind of felt for the Colorado Springs players because they really were trying to play their hardest, and then things just weren't quite going their way. I wouldn't be surprised if they said play the game or forfeit and get a fine. And the team was like, well, we don't want to pay a fine, so we're just going to do what we can to play. But, I mean, they still had quite the lineup out there in the first half. And, until Loyal got that third goal, there was still a little bit of all they need is one, and they're right back in it. And they were certainly trying. But you can tell that they weren't super happy. And now they have two guys on a red card, and who knows what's going to happen going forward either.
I think the thing I took away from at the very end from this match is what would happen if players on yellows couldn't get subbed out. I mean, we saw 2 players get double yellows in this match, and 2 of those, I think both of them, if it had not been for, Kyle or the sub Tate on the bench and him not being the only one, they would have subbed both of them out. Seeing that they were down 2-0 at halftime, we're just going to go ahead and sub both these boys out. Don't let them get a red. I feel like if this was a rule that you could only have 12 or even just 11 men, I feel like we'd see even more red cards than we saw at the very beginning, like 4 weeks of the season. But there is a little bit of news that I kind of want to talk about before we get into the more of the week that was. I know we had a long talk, but I mean, I feel like that was kind of the big news that came out. That was massive yesterday. And that is apparently Richie Ryan, who is a midfielder for El Paso, is requesting a transfer. And for people who are maybe new to the USL or new to lower league soccer, Richie Ryan, I think, not anymore. With the recent $1 million move, but until about a month ago, he was still the largest transfer of all time in lower league soccer, with a $800,000 move to the Miami FC. And apparently Richie Ryan wants out. Do we possibly see him returning back to the 305? And where do we think that maybe a guy like him could end up?
Colorado Springs.
I mean, could you imagine?
I mean, they're looking for players, I think. I think the situation is unfortunate. Like, we rarely get a look behind the scenes at stuff like this. So this might happen more often than we're really aware of. And this might just be somebody has a contact with somebody who wants to get this out, or at least an avenue to get it out, which, again, there are some teams that have pretty good, even if they're, I want to say semi-pro reporting, but like non-traditional newspaper or non-traditional sports coverage, that are good, that might be able to dig something like this up or build that trust with the team. But there's plenty of teams that don't really have that type of coverage, even at, the fan level, that these things could probably happen quite a bit, where players want out and then they're getting cut back. But I like that the USL Players Association is getting involved. I'm really happy to see that. And I think that's also a new wrinkle that hadn't been in existence the past, sort of the past couple of years, where now you have a Players Association that could really be vocal about treatment of a player.
Yeah, and like with any of these transfer sagas, you just want to have like the best outcome for all parties involved. And if Ryan doesn't want to still play for El Paso, he's entitled to at least try and find another avenue for an exit. This is someone's career we're talking about, and hopefully we can just find a good solution for everyone, and for the team and player.
I mean, it's just really, really wild to me that, I mean, obviously all we can do is speculate what could have happened, what couldn't have happened, whatever. And there's a good chance that this transfer request, if it did happen, happened well before their 4-0 loss to Oakland. But the fact that it's coming out now, right now, this just, I don't know. It feels like weird timing all around because on one hand, it makes Richie look bad because it looks like he's quitting. But also, if you look at it, because this is a business, you got to wonder where this is coming from, right? It's all about management control. This doesn't make sense for El Paso either. If they're the ones that leaked this and they're like, hey, he did this, saying that a player wants out after a 4-0 thrashing, you're not going to get the highest transfer there because it's like, well, your guy is desperate to get out and he's not going to play well for you. You might as well sell him for pennies. The timing of this request and the timing of this coming out feels bizarre all around for all parties.
We are still within the, I guess, international transfer window if he's looking for another move outside of the United States. But I know that might be a bit difficult to facilitate if it's this late in the window.
He's from Ireland, right?
Yeah.
So maybe this is just simply, I want to go home. We can get you money. We can get me money. Let's just do the dang thing. Because Richie's an incredible player. I mean, just terminating contract, maybe that just isn't the right move. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's all it is. It's just that we want to get this news out ASAP. Let's go ahead, force a move. I want to go home. I don't know. That's all speculation, though. But that's really the only thing that makes sense considering the timing. But moving on into the next part of the show that we normally do, shockers and whatnot. I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and give my shocker. That 4-0 win by Oakland, just every time I kept getting a notification of, goal, 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 goal. And John, USL Tactics, we posted on our Twitter, did a wonderful breakdown of that win by Oakland. That shocked me entirely.
Yeah, this is kind of the win that Oakland was looking for a while, right? They've been getting these exciting end-of-the-game draws, and those things aren't going to put you into the playoffs. Now, they're a little bit behind the 8 ball as far as points are concerned with, playing 22 games so far, which is the most in the West by a game, and some other teams have 3-4 games in hand on them. But this is the type of momentum building that Oakland kind of went on at the end of last year, right? They're well past the midway point, and so this might be one of those wins we look back and say, hey, this is when Oakland's starting to make that last playoff push, and it's going to be tough because if there was 8 teams, then I can see them maybe sneaking into that 8th spot, but with only 7. It's going to be one of the Los Dos, Las Vegas, and now Oakland is making a case to be a team in the conversation for that 7th and final playoff spot.
Yeah, I have to imagine that the Western Conference, even after this loss from El Paso, that they should still be a playoff team. They're currently 5 points clear of Las Vegas in 5th. I want to say that top 5 is pretty much maybe not set in the order, but those are the 5 teams going. But Oakland can make it interesting. I mean, they still have a positive goal differential. Of the 4 teams that we had named from Los Dos, Sacramento, and Las Vegas, it's the highest one of that 4. What they do need to start doing is turning some of those draws into wins, because they are currently the only team right now with double-digit draws, and that's more than the next highest teams have 7, and they're currently on 10.
I mean, you kind of mentioned them, and I guess I might as well toot the horn a little bit. I mean, Sacramento, losing that undefeated streak at home, even I was shocked by that. I mean, I was kind of torn between Roots and Legion winning there, which, I mean, I do want to go ahead and correct it here on a bigger stage, I suppose. I said that he was off. Juan Aguilar was off. Apparently was not off. I will say some of those replay angles in Sacramento are a little subpar. I would think for what it is, it would be a little bit better, but it really felt like there was just one hard angle and you really didn't get to see much else. But Legion go in there and perform a really good defensive game plan. They shut down Sacramento, who was pretty much full strength, and it was an impressive win. I know a lot of Sacramento fans were a little bit worried, but even then, I thought it was still a decent showing from Sacramento. They just didn't have that last moment magic like they did against Oakland.
They won the XG against them.
Counts for something, I guess. I mean, Legion only had one shot on goal and it went in.
Sometimes that's all you need.
It's true.
I think my biggest shock was me locking Louisville and then pulling it out and winning.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, we're in trouble. And then I checked back in later and I was like, I'm not the USL curse. I'm not the USL curse.
Who did I lock, by the way?
You had locked Hartford.
Hartford.
And we all picked Hartford to win that one with Charleston winning 3-1. I was going to say my big shock, and we had mentioned it at the top of the show, but obviously it has to be that 5-5 draw in
my
League One.
God.
I mean, for starters, you had Triumph throwing away a 4-0 lead. They were up 5-2 at the end of the first half. And then to see Tormenta come back and to basically get the draw here, it was incredible. I mean, we all picked Greenville to win that one. Gio even locked Greenville winning that one. And I checked going back for all. So this was the highest scoring game in USL 1 history. We've never had a 5-5 game for a scoreline in the USL Championship. We have had a few 11-goal games. And the last time we had a 5-5 goal or scoreline in MLS was 2004 between the San Jose Earthquakes and Metro Stars.
It was an incredible match to watch. I watched all 90 minutes, and listen, we talk a lot, and this is still kind of in my interpersonal canon. The second half to Las Vegas versus El Paso is one of those matches that I think about a lot. All 90 minutes of this Greenville versus a Tormenta match was that. If you're looking for just dumb entertainment, just go back and watch it. It is just as good knowing the final scoreline. Okay, I'm sorry, Alan's dog. I didn't mean to offend. Apparently, Alan's dog is not a fan of Bolt. But somehow knowing the final result, sorry, Gio, makes the match more entertaining because you see goal, and it's like, oh, Greenville, baby, like you're really doing it to them. And you see 4-0, and knowing the final result, you're just kind of like, I know what's coming. It's like knowing the train wreck is about to happen, and you are just a masochist and enjoying watching it happen.
Yeah, all of Greenville's goals come in the first half, which is wild.
Did the fifth one come in the first half too? I don't remember. I thought it happened at the beginning of the second.
I thought it came 3 minutes in the stoppage time.
I mean, you would think any game, if you score 5 in the first half, you've won.
Ridiculous. It was a ridiculous match. I mean, I feel like if we had somehow managed to record on Thursdays instead of Tuesdays, wow, would this have been a show? That would have USL. I have not seen USL Twitter that on fire just universally in a while. I mean, whenever the El Paso versus Las Vegas was happening, it was like, hey, turn in right now. Turn into the game right now. I know it was 0-0, but it's going crazy.
But I think what helped with both of these games is that they occurred midweek. Like if this game had occurred, say the typical 7:30 start on a Saturday, it would still get a lot of attention, but it may get lost from just people paying attention to other games, attending their own games. But the fact that we have these games on just the national stage of being like the lone USL game at the time, it made it that much more entertaining.
No kidding. And then, I mean, that was on top of that, there was W League stuff happening that day too. And so there was that entertainment. And then the championship just kind of rolled out, one of the most boring midweek matches I have ever seen. If you just want pure chaos, League Two, W League, and League One are everything that you've ever wanted. If you just want pure entertainment, go for it. The championship sometimes relative to League One and other ones, it's like, wow, this is like truly the top of the top will always beat the bottom of the bottom unless it's Monterey at Louisville, then it doesn't count. Like it's wild.
Or Monterey drawing Detroit.
That was, speaking of boring matches, I went back and watched that one. That one was bad. That was a hard one to watch. Neither team looked like they wanted to win. That was a tough watch for me. I mean, I will say, though, this still stands by my comments that Nate Steinwasser was not included in the mid-season MVPs. And I think that he has been the MVP of the league. I don't think there's a single – it depends on what you consider. Is it most valuable player or is it best player? I think that's a reasonable debate. To me, there is no player more valuable to their club than Nate Steinwasser. And I don't think it's close.
I think what makes it difficult is Detroit is slowly kind of falling into those away playoff teams, and then they're going to be right around Miami, Tulsa, Indy 11, teams that are not really sparking joy, if you will. So
it's not Indy right now.
It would be difficult to say. I think if Detroit City ends up in a home playoff game, then I would entertain him being in that question. I think the further Detroit City goes down, yes, he's played really, really well. But I think that there's some players playing on better teams with other people around them, and they're the ones like being the shining stars. But yes, you're right. I'd like to see not just, hey, you scored goals, you're MVP. It's like, cool. But I think he should be in the conversation. I think the reason he's not is Detroit City is the shine is off of them a little bit. I know they had a pretty big injury, and I think that there's some question marks after that injury for Detroit City. How much can they hold on, and then how good is it? The back line been doing well? Is it really the keeper? Is it a combination of the both? And I think we're going to get a decent look at just how good he is in between the sticks.
Yeah, if you're looking back at Detroit City's last 8 games, they have 3 shutouts, but have only scored 5 goals in that time.
That's the thing, though, is that, and this has been the kind of thing all year long, is that their defense is good. They have a good defense. I don't think they have an elite defense, but they have a good defense that's occasionally leaky. And he stops a lot of one-on-ones. I know that John does his goals above replacement, and look at Major League Baseball. They have WAR, wins above replacement. In my personal opinion, Nate Steinwasser is the difference between them sitting tied for third, tied for fourth, whatever you want to call it, and them being on the fringe of a playoff team. He is single-handedly worth, to me, 3 positions in the table. I don't know about the other players. I mean, Robert brings up Tainer, who's been incredible. But if you pull Tainer off the pitch for San Antonio, I still think they're a top 3 team in the league. He's been amazing, but if you pull him off the pitch, I still think that they're sitting a top 2 team in the West. If you pull Nate Steinwasser off the pitch, I think that Detroit City is looking at being somewhere in like 7 or 8. They're on the outside looking in. And John brings up he's third in saves and four in clean sheets. I think that's a fair assessment, but if you look at sometimes the amount of pressure he puts on attackers as well in one-on-ones, his positioning alone throws off shots a lot. He has great positioning that forces players to just shoot off target because they just don't have anywhere else to shoot. I think that's one of the pluses with him. You also don't see him that high in clean sheets just because, like I said, the back line can be leaky and there's only so long someone can stand on their head. But that's just my personal opinion. Obviously, I'm just an idiot with a microphone, so what do I know?
And with Detroit, though, we've mentioned how important it is to keep that Soundwatchers kept them in games. If you're looking, there are only 4 teams in the league this year: Tampa Bay, Louisville, San Antonio, and Detroit's upcoming opponents this week in New Mexico, who has lost fewer games than them. Detroit has only lost 4, and you've had those others on 3. The fact that they've been able to turn a lot of these outcomes in games into results, whether that's a draw or a win, has been very important to keeping them in the playoff picture. As you had mentioned, they're currently tied for 4th with Pittsburgh.
With Legion slowly sneaking back there with a goal in hand. If they win that, they find themselves in a home playoff game. So that's super exciting. But unless anybody else has anything they want to add to the playoff conversation or the not playoff, but the MVP conversation, because that's a really fun one to have right now. Do any of y'all have any like mid-season award conversations that you want to bring up? Cool. All right. So let's go ahead and look at our, predictions for the week. Obviously, not everybody is here, but that is what it is. Oh, actually, before we completely move on, I feel like we do need to talk about Memphis versus Louisville City before we completely move on. What an absolute bonkers match. Muse gets a red card at the end that he didn't deserve. He got hit in the shoulder with the ball, got hit with the red card. It was already a bit late. It didn't really matter at that point. Both teams get a player sent off a really weak yellow card, an incredibly weak second yellow. Brian Owenby decides to go full gangbusters. That was a nuts match to watch.
Yeah, and it just more cements Louisville's spot atop of the Eastern Conference as a team that I know we really haven't discussed Louisville that much on the show this year. It's always been more centered around discussions of Tampa Bay and Memphis, but Louisville's just quietly got the job done. They're 5 wins in their last 5, and could be still a decent pick to win the Shield this year over San Antonio.
Yeah, I think Trey Muse was doing his best Kyle Adams impersonation. It's, I mean, Ryan mentioned 5 of the last 5. It's 6 of the last 7. The only loss in that is against the Tampa Bay Rowdies, that 1-0 game. I think maybe the reason people don't talk about Lou City is it's Lou City, and they are always hanging around and doing the thing. And usually at this part of the season, I think maybe they're like, where Pittsburgh are, and then they kind of make a run toward the end. But they're definitely making that East kind of a 3-horse race between Memphis, Tampa Bay, and Lou City. And and it's not surprising. So I think that's why it's they don't get a lot of attention on the show. I mean, Tampa Bay started out pretty rough and really turned the season around. But Lou City has always been pretty consistent. I think the same thing with San Antonio. I don't think, San Antonio gets a lot of attention because they're just kind of quietly going about their business. It's not necessarily super flashy unless they're playing Atlanta United too. But they're a really quality team. They proved it last year in the playoffs as well. And probably, depending on that San Antonio Orange County match, San Antonio could have done to what Orange County did. And, so I think I think the teams that kind of quietly go about their business, aren't super flashy, don't have some roller coaster moments, are not going to get as much attention because it's not really a sexy conversation.
And to think with Louisville's 3 losses they had this year, that happened over a 4-game span of May and June. I mean, they lost to Los Dos and Monterey Bay in consecutive weeks, got a 4-1 win against Tulsa, and then lost to Tampa Bay at the start of June.
Yeah, so I mean, with all that, I mean, we might as well go ahead and preview a little bit as well. And we have our picks of the week. And we're going to start off with the USL Extravaganza Showcase. Not the All-Star game. Should have been the All-Star game. I'm not bitter about it. Bourbon exists, and that's when we're here. Lou City versus Phoenix, which if this match had happened in March, we'd probably be a lot more excited for it. Ryan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is one of those games that you have to imagine the league is probably a little bit more disappointed in how poorly Phoenix has been this season. That this was supposed to be like a hyped up, like the 2 titans of the league going up against each other. But now you're running into a Phoenix team whose winless in their last 5 has really just poor goal differential at -10. You only have Monterey Bay is worse than them in the Western Conference. Louisville has just been cruising, as we've recently discussed. So I'm actually locking Louisville to win this game.
Yeah, I think you got to go with Lou. They're playing at home. It's a big match. Louisville's also picking them to win. If you didn't see on Twitter, they announced that there's like a winning toast after the match already scheduled. So I'm gonna believe in Louisville's confidence, and I'm gonna pick them.
They do that every week, so this wasn't a specific slide at Phoenix, but also it probably does have a little bit of extra, little poke to it. But I wonder, again, this is all just me kind of speculating. With the recent news of that radio show recently, or the news article, whatever, that says that Chance's job is safe until the end of the year officially, I wonder what that does to the clubhouse, because you could tell on the pitch they were not trying that hard, knowing for sure, confirmed by the owner, confirmed by the GM, that he's going to be around for the full year. Are we going to see a revitalized Phoenix, or are we going to see a completely destroyed and shell of a club?
You may also look at it as like the past few months, we've spoken on this show that it was a lot of speculation on, is Chance going to get fired mid-season? Is there going to be someone who comes in and replace it? That maybe at this point they just say, okay, we're done with the speculation. This is the decision we're going to make. And there's not going to be any change to it. That's a way to just kind of more motivate the players. There's no more distractions. He's here until the end of the season. Just keep trying to play your own game, and we'll either try and get out of it or write off the season. I mean, it's unlikely, but they're still only 7 points behind Sacramento. If you can pick up a win here against a Louisville team, it could be something that helps turns around the season.
Yeah, this is one I picked Louisville for, considering the festivities, considering how big of a deal they're making it. This is probably going to be a very high selling match. And considering Phoenix's road stats and road form, it's not great, and they're going into one of the more hostile environments in the USL. So this one feels like a nice little Lou City win. It's going to be interesting to see if this one goes off the rails or not. Next up, we have a really interesting one. If you want to look off the pitch, we have a battle of 2 clubs that have really built around their community, 2 of the more community-oriented clubs in the USL, and that is Detroit City versus New Mexico United.
Detroit City has to be happy that they're finally returning home after a 2-match road stand against Indy 11 and then the trip cross country to Monterey Bay. Just like looking through the past, just the past 7 games, there's only been 3 home games in that time, or this will be their 3rd home game in 7 games. And They have to go all the way back to May 21st to find the last time they won a game at home. I think they're going to be happy to be there, but they're going up against a New Mexico team who's unbeaten in their last 5. That I think it's going to be a very tough game. And I'm going to back this one to be a draw, kind of reminiscent of that 1-1 match they had against El Paso back in June.
And New Mexico is kind of sneaky good on the road as far as kind of their record is concerned. I probably should have gone with a draw here, knowing New Mexico's record of getting draws and or winning on the road. But I do think Detroit City has a lot to prove, and I'm going to lean toward them in this one.
With the recent backline injury with Amu, I think I pronounced that right. If I didn't, please don't scream at me, Detroit City fans. I'm a dumb redneck who doesn't know how to pronounce things. I trust New Mexico's offense more than Detroit City's backline right now. I mean, obviously, this is not a game of names, but when you look at the names, I trust one a little bit more. This is going to be a very interesting match to watch, depending on basically how both teams come out. Is Hopino going to be, busting up and just really breaking on the counterattack? We've seen New Mexico susceptible to that. Is New Mexico going to come out overly defensive like they did against Tulsa? Maybe. But this also feels like maybe not the match to do that. Will they try to go for a draw? I don't know. My heart of hearts told me that this was going to be a draw, but I also refuse to pick draws. I have made that a personal rule of mine, and so I'm hedging New Mexico to win. So I went with a New Mexico win according to our spreadsheet, but my heart just feels a draw on this one. Anyway, going up next, we have, after last week, this is an interesting matchup now with El Paso versus San Antonio. San Antonio, who is still high rolling, beat a Atlanta United 2 team who I said had a really good offense, and then San Antonio decided to say, "Screw you, Kaylor, you're an idiot with a microphone." And El Paso, I went out and said, "They're a great team." Then Oakland came out and said, "Shut up, Kaylor, you're an idiot with the microphone," and just proceeded to beat El Paso 4-0. So, which El Paso team are we going to see? Are we going to see the same San Antonio team? This one's an interesting one.
I think we're going to see the San Antonio team that has just been absolutely dominant away from home this year. There are 8 wins here, and it's just been a very strong team that they have. And if you're coming off the back of an El Paso 4-0 loss they had last time out, it's been very up and down. They had a 1-0 win over Colorado Springs, but then you have prior to that a 2-2 draw against your aforementioned great offense, Atlanta United 2. I think this San Antonio just keeps the good streak going, and they pick up a win here.
Sorry, Robert. I just think San Antonio is playing really well right now, and I need to make up ground. I think I'm not even sure where I am anymore. But I think San Antonio is just is a quality franchise this season. They score some goals. They don't let goals in. I think 14 goals allowed in 18 games. I just think they're going to be a little bit too strong for El Paso. So I'm going to pick San Antonio to get this one.
So this one for me, I do feel like El Paso rebounds, but I feel like if it was a team, any other team besides San Antonio, you would see results from it. But I think San Antonio is just way too good. Even a rebound for El Paso is not going to be good enough to get 3 points here or even a point. I'm going with San Antonio. And sorry, Robert, but this is my lock of the week coming out of Top Ropes. I just don't see any way San Antonio loses this. Next up, though, we're talking about the best teams of the best, and we're all fighting for hardware. Is it going to be San Antonio? Is it going to be San Antonio going in to get the Shield? Is it going to be Lou City, or are we going to see another team come out of nowhere? But we have a very important match for silverware. I'm sure you guys did not know that there was an award on the line this coming up weekend. I guess it's not even silverware. We have woodenware on the line. The battle for the wooden spoon. Whoever wins is pretty much eliminated. It is Monterey Bay versus the Baby Bulls of New York.
I mean, I would say Monterey Bay is pretty safe from not winning the wooden spoon this year. You're looking at a New York Red Bulls 2 team. He's on 9 points, and Monterey Bay is up on 17. There's still a chance that Monterey Bay doesn't even finish bottom of the Western Conference. You have Orange County sitting 2 spots in front of them, 2 points in front of them. If you're looking for like a wooden spoon, we'll have 2 more meetings between New York Red Bulls and Charleston throughout the year. But all of this is more of a roundabout way to say that Monterey Bay, you're going to win it this week.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And if Monterey actually ends up winning, like I think that they will, they would only be a point behind Indy 11 on the same number of games played. So they would be fighting for 9th place in the East, and they're at the bottom of the West. So I think this, especially this being in Monterey, there's a lot going for them. I think that they end up winning this one.
Look, this is going to be an emotional one. This is going to be Dallas Jays, the first ever number 1 for Monterey, and an absolute legend for FC Cincy and Greenville Triumph. And Phoenix? Was he at Phoenix for a while? I don't remember. This is going to be his last ever match. He is going off and retiring, the goalkeeper for Monterey Bay. And you just mentioned Indy 11. This is a team that New York Red Bulls, too, just beat. They 1-0 win over the currently well on fire, well engulfed in flames, about to burn into ashes Indy 11, both on and off the pitch. Please don't unfollow us on Twitter. Thanks. Yeah, I went with Monterey Bay. I almost made this a lock. Baby Bulls are bad, but Monterey Bay is still not great. This one's going to be a must watch for me for all the wrong reasons, and I'm very excited about it. But this one I went with Monterey Bay. Next up, because I lost my place, it is going to be Loyal versus Rio Grande Valley.
Even if you take away the 5-0 loss to Los Dos a few weeks ago, Loyal has still been playing pretty decent high-scoring soccer. You have like you've had multiple goals scored, and I believe outside of that Los Dos game, in 4 of their last 5. It's been a very decent team, and I will pick them to win against RGV this week. An RGV team who's winless in their last 4.
Yeah, I think, again, if this was in RGV, I think this would be a much different game. I think San Diego plays really, really well at home. And, there's a couple of those hiccups, one after a red card and one against, one of the best teams in the East. But Loyal just doesn't perform poorly at home very often. And so I think they kind of build on their success from this past week. And they beat RGV, and I'm also saying that because I know people pay attention to what I pick on this. So shout out to AV.
The question is will Preston Judd be able to carry the weight of Kyler, the sub, Tate? And the answer is no. He will not. This one's a Loyal win, despite Judd's best efforts. Loyal are just good. They're just so good. This is not Los Dos, my bad. Rio Grande. Well, Preston Judd won't be there either, so screw off Preston. I think this is going to be a Loyal win. So full transparency, in my notes that I have pulled up right now, before the Legion Tulsa match, I had originally had it being the Los Dos match, and I just never erased that. So that's where my eyes went. But yeah, Rio Grande, I think this is going to be a chippy win, but this is a home match, so the voodoo magic doesn't happen. So I consider this to be a loyal win. But I kind of tease it a little bit. It is going to be Legion versus Tulsa. Ryan, you had mentioned Detroit City being happy to be back at home. Legion in their not out of their last 9 matches, they have only had one home game, including 5 straight away matches. The last Saturday home match Legion have had came on April 2nd. So this is the first time that the Legion have played on a weekend at home since the beginning of April. So this one should be an interesting one. Shut up, Robert. You're probably right.
I mean, you did at least get a USFL championship for the Birmingham Stallions out of the deal.
That happened in Canton, Ohio. We didn't even get a chance to see it. It was a waste of money.
Canton's a nice stadium.
The World Games were fun, though.
But yeah, if you're looking at a Legion team who over their next 6 games, 5 of them are at home, and you're looking, and basically in 3 of those games, 4 of those games are against teams below them in the table, and we can definitely see an opportunity for Legion to just really move up the table here with results. You'd mentioned earlier in the show, win this weekend with results elsewhere, could see them occupy a top 4 spot in the Eastern Conference. And Tulsa just still without a road victory this year. I think Birmingham get a win here.
Brew agrees. Tulsa has a whopping 2 points in road games. In 10 road games, 2 points, 8 goals scored, 24 allowed. Tulsa just does not play well on the road. Birmingham's home record, I think, is maybe a little bit deceiving. They started out a little bit rocky, and that's where all their home games were when they were kind of figuring it out. And so I think they start to turn around their home form in this one as well. And I just don't think Tulsa is very good on the road. So I am locking the Legion this week. You're welcome, Kaler.
Okay. I will say, if you look back to the Tulsa 3-1 win, and this is fully me making excuses, right? I totally get that. The last goal did come from basically halfway because Matt Van Oekel was in the other box trying to get back a goal. So I still consider that to be a 2-1 win for Tulsa. But even then, if you look at that roster compared to this one, it is almost unrecognizable between injuries and trades. The one thing I think is probably guaranteed, J.J. Williams is probably going to get his goal on his return to Birmingham, his first return to Alabama, his home state. So he's probably going to score. And if it's in front of the supporter section, I'm sure they will hear about it. But I do think that Legion are figuring it out offensively. I think that they are figuring it out on defense. They're, I think, an elite defense, but I'm biased. I think this is going to end up being a 2-1 win for the Three Sparks. But after that, we have one more Phoenix match to talk about. And this one's a big rivalry between Sacramento and Phoenix. I think a lot of this match depends on what happens tomorrow, how Phoenix comes out. But rivalry match, you never know. Anything can happen.
And I think that's something at least Phoenix can at least kind of play up to. It's a weird just how they've been at home this year. They do not have a win at home since May 7th when they got a 3-0 victory over the current league leaders in San Antonio right now. But they need to have a good showing. This is something that like this week needs to be a turnaround week for Phoenix. They need to get a result out of one of these 2 games. And even if you're looking on the other side with Sacramento of a team who's now winless in their last 3 after a 3-0 loss to Colorado Springs, that 3-3 draw against Oakland, and then your aforementioned win for Birmingham. I think both of these teams need to get a result out of this. And when it's something like that happens, I think that's just everything pointing towards a frustrating draw, which is what I'm going to pick.
Ooh, I should have picked something different. I think the other thing looming large over this match is the Open Cup game 4 days later. And I would assume Sacramento is probably going to prioritize that one which means I probably should have picked like a draw, but I picked Sacramento, and I guess I'm going to stick with that.
I also picked Sacramento. I think just the state of Phoenix right now, that even if Sacramento rotated the team, that it won't make a difference. And that's not what anybody would have said about Phoenix preseason. It's insane where they are right now. I took Sacramento. I really believe in what they did. I really enjoy watching their system. It's very fun to watch. So that one should be interesting. Off or just whenever you're looking on the pitch to look for some feisty plays. Expect a yellow card or a red or two. But let's move into what I believe is the match of the week. It is the Battle of the Belt. It is Tuesday or whatever his name is, Hoot whatever versus Geo. It is going to be the hair battles, the whatever battles. Apparently, Omaha is theoretically wearing corn as a kit, but apparently not read the fine print, kids. It is Omaha versus Greenville in upstate.
And for as chaotic as we've seen USL 1 be this year, the one constant has been, well, Greenville has just been very good in this season. There are 31 points atop the table, and it's like a clear top of the table right now. I mean, even after the kind of just chaotic games they've had over the past week with South Georgia and Richmond, you still have to go all the way back to April 23rd to find the last time that they've lost a game at home. I think for that reason, Greenville still continues to cruise at home and gets a win.
Yeah, Greenville in 8 games played is 6 wins, 0 draws, 2 losses for 18 points. Only 6 goals allowed in those 8 games. Omaha has been pretty decent on the road, so not like terrible. But I think right now the role that Greenville's been on, unless you are a pattern person, you might pick this a draw because it's been win, draw, win, draw, win. Although Union Omaha has been loss, win, draw, draw, win. So they're both on pretty good run of form lately, but I went with Greenville on this one.
You know, you talk about this being Greenville being good. If you look at, I think Chip the Ripper put it on Twitter, not the rapper, the US or the USL League One guy from Walking 90, Union Omaha fan. This is a battle between first and second on points per game. Greenville in first, Union Omaha in second on points per game. These are maybe debatably the 2 best teams in the USL right now, and they're going to battle it out. I expect Legacy to be an absolute madhouse, and I think that Greenville comes away and firmly cements themselves as the class of League One yet again. And also, Ryan just put in our private chat, in the ELO ratings, also these are the 1 and 2 teams. So there you have it. I mean, can't argue with math, kids. Next up, we have the Sad Boys of Chattanooga taking on the Pinball Wizards of Northern Colorado.
After what it has basically been their last 4 of their last 5 games at home, Northern Colorado takes another road trip, and their road form has just not really been all that convincing. This year, you have to go all the way back to May 18th to find the last game that they won away from home. But there are just like a few results that you see this year that Chattanooga has just like an odd match every so often. I mean, they've lost to FC Tucson at home. They've got, and then they turn around and get a 7-1 win against Charlotte. They only lose against FC Tucson again at home. I'm going to take Chattanooga to win this one, but this is one that I could see any result happening here.
Yeah, that was kind of where I was, but I think if anything, like home team, if they're pretty good, is going to have a distinct advantage over road team. And so I am picking the home team in this one in the Chattanooga.
These are two teams that are tied on points. The only thing separating a playoff spot and not a playoff spot right now is goal difference alone. And Northern Colorado goes into Chattanooga, Tennessee. They find themselves sitting in the last playoff spot. I know it's early. We're only halfway through the season, but that does a lot for the psyche. I went with the hailstorm here of Northern Colorado. Chattanooga, despite getting a 2-1 win over North Carolina, it was an early pin and it was a late first half goal that gave them a 2-0 lead. And then North Carolina pulled one back and just never was really convincing. I think Northern Colorado is better than North Carolina. I don't think that's necessarily a hot take. I think this is going to be one of those matches for the hailstorm that they were able to pull one out and find themselves in the playoff spot in that final win for the League One. And finally, we are going to look at Fuego versus the Richmond Kickers.
Fuego just, I know a lot of us had like really high hopes for them this season, but still they just have the one win at home this year. And despite being tied on points with Chattanooga, Northern Colorado, you need to start picking up more home victories if you want to find yourselves in the playoffs. Richmond's, we've already had discussed that their away form has little to be desired, but I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a really interesting game. The last time we saw Richmond take a trip out west, it was the 1-0 win over Tucson. So I think it'll be close. Going to take a draw in this one, but I don't know. I could see Richmond pulling out another victory like they did against Tucson.
Yeah, so this one's fun to look at. Richmond Kickers are a pretty good home team, like a pretty darn good home team. Fuego are a pretty good away team. So I think if this was a reverse fixture, it would be a pretty decent matchup. But on the flip side, Richmond Kickers have been particularly not great on the road, and Fuego has been particularly not great at home. So this is like the someone's gonna have to budge on this one. I was gonna pick draw because of that, but again, I am going to go with the fact that this is in California, and so I have to pick. I have to pick Fuego.
I know that Fuego's home record has not been great, and I still stand by that Richmond is going to be and are title contenders. They are one of the top three teams. When I said debatably the top two teams for Omaha and Greenville, I think you can easily debate that Richmond is sitting in that second spot above Union Omaha right now. That said, their away record is bad. They don't just lose away, they lose bad away. For that, I am taking the Fuego. El Fuego. English language is weird when you decide to put random Spanish into it. And this one's one that sprung on you guys last second. I totally forgot that it was this week. I had it in my calendars next week. We have the USLW League final, and it is going to be between Aurora versus Tormenta. Tormenta riding a magical run right now. They're holding up a Payne's number before every match, which has been heartbreaking, but also like really cool to see. And Aurora, who is a community-owned club, community-ran club, who are just continue to go out and win and have incredible atmospheres. Two of the best stories in the USL right now, and they're meeting in the final. Who do we have?
I have to go with Minnesota here. Just hosting the final we've seen in USL has been incredibly important. That it's really tough to go on the road, and especially into a packed environment like Aurora is going to have. And I'm going to back Minnesota to win.
I just like their kits, so I'm going with Aurora. I think those kits deserve to win.
I'm a softie. I'm admittedly a very emotional person. It's so hard for me not to pick Tormenta here. Their dominant win over Greenville, who I thought Greenville had a very, very real chance of being title winners this year, and they smashed them. We've seen Aurora do that to teams before, but not in the playoffs, not against a team like Liberty. I think Tormenta comes in hot. They have a little bit of chip on their shoulder, and they have a little bit of help from the outside. And I'm going to continue to run the hot hand, and I'm going to go with Tormenta here. But yeah, I mean, this is an exciting one. If you have time, you need to watch this final. Even if it's on demand, it's bound to be an absolute banger. If you did not watch the Indy 11 versus Aurora match, the first goal for Aurora to tie the match, you could argue that might be an all-around USL goal of the year, considering just how perfectly it curled and just what a beautiful goal it was. But this one should be an absolute fun one. But we have gone really, really long today. So unless you guys have some parting USL thoughts, let's go ahead and close out the show. Ryan, what are some final thoughts you have for the people at home?
The movie RRR on Netflix is one hell of a watch. It's a very long 3-hour film, but it has a lot of action and it's just a lot of fun and really entertaining. So I recommend the watch of it.
My music recommendation is Beethoven's 7th Symphony.
My hot take, the first movement's better than the second movement. That first movement is...
My hot take is it's his best symphony.
Beethoven 8's good. This is not... It's hard for me. No, actually, I love Beethoven 3. I love Beethoven 3.
Yeah, but he ripped off Mozart for the opening melody, so that gets thrown out. Beethoven 7.
Fair enough. Can't argue with that. It's a good one. I think it's the first piece that featured 3 horns, which is cool and innovative and quirky. My music recommendation. I'm teaching a band camp right now, and they're doing West Side Story. And so, listen, America by Leonard Bernstein has been easily stuck in my head all day long. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. Different vibes. If you want to just have a fun listen, it's a good one. Alan's not happy with me.
Every marching band in like the late 90s, early 2000s did West Side Story.
And everybody's doing Wicked now. People find the one musical they like. They just haven't figured out how to put Hamilton to a halftime show yet. Give it about 10 years and you're going to have a lot of it.
What's fun about America is Stephen Sondheim wrote the lyrics.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. Interesting. Last little bit of, I guess, just me things, not a musical recommendation. I tend to always do this. I feel like whenever we're having this podcast, 9 p.m. is whenever it just kind of hits those hours for me. But I guess on a real note, go out, take care of yourselves, treat yourself to what you need. I've been having to just kind of deal with different anxiety stuff and just kind of like just mental health stuff that's been putting me into a weird place. So, it's something that I had to take some time away and just like really figure myself out. And it's okay to take some time for yourself and figure yourself out and figure out what you need. If you feel burnout and you feel like you need to talk to somebody, go to talk to somebody. It's worth it. I promise. Your mental health is more important than really just about anything else. So take care of yourself, people. But unless anybody has anything else, that's it for tonight. Thank you so much for listening. For all the people who are listening to Podcast Forum, thank you so much, everybody who made the live chat a ton of fun. Specifically, thank you to Tyler the Sub Tape for existing. Thank you so much. And for the last time tonight, y'all, let's listen to Alan's voice.
Thank you for watching another episode of the USL Show. This
and every episode is brought to you by the Beautiful Game Network. Find podcasts and other written work at bgn.fm. Once again, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you guys again next week.